You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. When we had the opportunity to talk to Brian Kelly on Monday as LSU begins game week for Mississippi State, one of the biggest changes here, obviously, not just Mississippi State, but in the country, is the Mississippi State offense. Because you go from something so different, so specific as the air raid, and now you're going to change those concepts. You still have Will Rogers there, who has a chance to break every SEC career passing record by the time he leaves campus. But that was when he was running Mike Leach's air raid. And they are not running Mike Leach's air raid right now. As a matter of fact, in the 31-24 overtime win, Mississippi State played an overtime game this past weekend. Will Rogers threw 17 pass attempts. He was 13 of 17 for 162. Oh, yes, this is very different. Brian Kelly talked about, number 3, please, talked about this Mississippi State offense post Mike Leach.
Quite a different change there. Going away from the air raid offense, going to a much more traditional offense. It is one that, certainly that many see in college football, but they've got some really good players. Will Rogers is probably one of the most experienced quarterbacks in the SEC. 35 straight starts, so when you have that, it's a really good thing. He's got 11,000 career passing yards. Jaquavius Marks, an outstanding running back. So a great challenge for our football team.
Marks had 24 rushing attempts, by the way, against Arizona. But the real question in this game is LSU's secondary against the Mississippi State pass offense. And that is going to be the real story in every game LSU plays until proven otherwise. This is an LSU defense that the secondary just could not compete against Florida State. And early in the game against Grambling, they were spreading you out and throwing it and put up 170 yards. And you allowed a good quarterback in Miles Crawley to sling it around a little bit on you last week. Now you go to Starkville. You're not going to face the air raid. And again, Mississippi State's best receiver, Ra Thomas, is now playing at Georgia. So it's a different look for Mississippi State, no doubt. But there's a very real consideration, which is if your secondary is as bad as we think they've been here through a couple of games, why wouldn't everybody throw the ball against your secondary? Because when it's bad on bad, and I'm not saying Mississippi State's passing offense is bad, but it's certainly not what they've shown they want to do here early. Why wouldn't you do it when that's what you can exploit from the opponent's defense? Now, Brian Kelly was very candid today, and if he's candid, to a fault, if nothing else, but he was asked today at his Monday press conference, did you know in fall camp that your secondary was going to struggle like this? Here was his answer.
Yes, we knew that we were playing new players back there, and the challenges were going to be in developing players with very little experience, but with talent. But talent is only one part of the equation. It's developing, the consistency and doing the little things that require playing at a high level, tackling, leveraging the football, being in the right leverage, whether it's inside leverage or outside leverage, raking through the basket, when the ball's in the air and getting it out, and which we've done, much better in week 2.
So he went on a bit there, obviously, but he talked about some of those specific things that they could do better, raking the ball out of the basket, right? Whenever, the ball's coming in, you get your hand in the middle and you rake the ball out. So most importantly is the thing he said at the very beginning. Did you know your secondary was going to struggle? Yes. And it was obvious to all of us who watched this team. I mean, we went out there the first day of camp, and we have told the story a million times already. They had the one-on-ones with the corners and the receivers, or the DBs and the pass catchers, and they ran 22 reps, and the offense won 20 of the 22. It was overwhelming. The offense started way ahead of this defense. Now, to their credit, I feel like the defense caught up and played better as camp went along, but clearly our eyes weren't deceiving us. They were struggling to contain really good receivers. So what option do you have? I know a lot of people have talked about Denver Harris. Brian Kelly addressed that today in the most detail that he has. But I want to point something out before I let you hear Brian Kelly's comments. We've talked about Denver Harris here, and I've told you from camp that he was running third team. And there's been pushback on that, and I know there's this sort of contingent part of the fan base, this contingency that believes or wants to believe that Brian Kelly's just teaching Denver Harris a lesson, why he wasn't playing him. And what I pointed out routinely throughout fall camp was two things. Number one, he didn't stand out, that being Denver Harris. Again, it's not to say he's a bad player, will never be good. I'm just telling you what my eyeball saw. He didn't stand out. The first day the drills we were talking about, he was guarding Shelton Sampson, who ran a go route and ran 5 yards past Denver Harris. I'm not saying he just didn't stand out. And number two, when things got as bad as they did against Florida State, if you're Brian Kelly if you have a better player and you're choosing not to play him, it's foolish pride. You're not going to cut off your nose to spite your face. And the thing that I've said consistently, and this isn't PFA, it's not plucked from the air. It's the thing that I've been told from people who know what they're talking about or close to the program, is that Denver Harris, great athlete. I've said this here. I've said it on my podcast, LSU Daily. I've said it on Moscona. I've said it everywhere. That Denver Harris is a great athlete, but he's basically relied on his athleticism his whole life and has never had to play in zone concepts and things like that. Until it comes along, it's going to be hard for him to get on the field. I literally, this is a cut I pulled. This was literally Sunday morning on Morning Scone. For those of you who don't know, I do a show on my personal YouTube channel literally every day. This was literally Sunday morning. I mean, I said it a bajillion times. This was just the most recent time I said it.
What I've been told from the beginning about Denver Harris is really good athlete, has played most of his football career just being a better athlete than the guy across from him. And if you're going to play at this level, you have to understand zone concepts and your responsibilities and zone coverage and all that sort of stuff. And he doesn't. And if this team is going to continue to struggle to cover the way they have, they're going to have to play a lot of zone and tackle. And if you have a guy that doesn't understand his responsibilities in zone, it's hard to justify putting him out there.
Okay, so that was my voice literally Sunday morning. I've said this a bajillion times. So thankfully, Brian Kelly finally said it publicly today.
I liked his demeanor. He didn't lose his cool in some instances where, he got his helmet pulled off a couple of times. He was being held. I think he's growing, and these young men are in a process of growing and learning. And, he's learning our coverages. He's learning, he's a press corner. And we don't just play press. We play press and we play bail and we play off and then we play press to off. And so there's a lot of different things that he's learning. He was just strictly a press corner. And he just pressed you in. When you came off the bus, he pressed you. And this is new to him, but he's learning and he wants to get better at it every day. So listen, I'm a coach. I want a captive audience. I want guys that want to be coached. And the great part about it is he wants to be coached.
And the truth shall set you free. Y'all, I'm glad Brian Kelly finally said it. So you don't have to choose whether or not you believe me. From Brian Kelly's mouth, Denver Harris has been a press man. He's played press man his whole career. He's got to learn zone concepts and all the other things, bail and all the other stuff that he said, which I don't know. I'm not a defensive back. I'm not a coach. I'm not a college coach. But I'm not guessing on this stuff. Denver Harris is a great athlete. I want the kid to be awesome. Believe me. We all want LSU secondary to get better. And if you have a guy that's capable of improving your secondary, awesome. Accelerate that process, get him there. But if you think they're just choosing not to play him to teach him a lesson, I don't know what else to tell you. Brian Kelly just told you the thing that I've been saying for months and months and months because everybody knows it to be true. They got to get him caught up in how to play the position and not just be an athlete playing man coverage, press man coverage on the outside. So hopefully they get there. And hopefully he's consistent and patient and continues to improve and get better because he's got the potential. But I know what happens with situations like this. You got a kid that was a 5-star. It's not his fault he was a 5-star. The recruiting service has made him a 5-star. And so you see a kid that's highly rated and you just become enamored with that guy. It was the same thing here with Cardell Thomas for years. People every day, hey, why is Cardell Thomas playing? Because he was, and I don't want to criticize the young man. It's not, again, not his fault, but he wasn't capable of playing it at a high level in the SEC. It was a miss. It happens. And hopefully for Denver Harris, he continues to improve and get better and better and better because athletically, he's got a lot of gifts. He's got to get better at the position. And LSU needs him to. So hopefully he's bought in. It sounds like he is, and they'll continue to improve there. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.